What's up, y'all? It's your boy Sean P back again. Happy Memorial Day to y'all and y'all families out there. Hope y'all are grilling up some burgers or hot dogs or what have you. But I'm coming back to talk a little bit about some of the commentary that's going on in the last week of some of the news. I believe last week we talked about the 50th anniversary of Biggie, 50th his traditional 50th birthday, if you will, and the celebration of Biggie. We did our top 7 to 5 Biggie tracks, and we looked at what would happen if Biggie would have lived, and we took a little look at that. If not, peep that video out. Feel free to leave your comments. Now I want to go and spin off of that a little bit, and I want to talk about some comments that were made by Sean Diddy Combs in an interview with Jay-Z on, I believe, the one of those forums, one of those online forums where you would talk and go back and forth. I forget the name of the platform, but in the interview session, it made waves that Diddy proclaimed Jay-Z as the man that carried the torch from Biggie and Tupac. And he carried the torch in hip hop for both of those guys. But not only that, he took that torch and obliterated everything and took what they did to a completely different level. I don't want to speak out of context, but that was the tone that Diddy gave in a very in a very I would say personal interview between Jay-Z and Diddy. And Jay-Z gave his respects. He also said it couldn't have been done without others, and he didn't pay specific homage to people like such as a Nas, but he said it couldn't have been done without others or what have you. So that created a lot of waves on the internet. A lot of people were offended by that comment to say Jay-Z took and carried the torch from Biggie and Pac. Of a lot of older hip hop fans, maybe from the Biggie and Pac generation, maybe some younger hip hop fans. But what we're going to talk about today is, well, if Jay-Z didn't carry the torch and the torch was not passed to Biggie. The torch was not passed to Jay-Z from Pac and Biggie. Then who was it? And at this point, why would you slander Jay? Where is this Jay? I don't want to call it this. The downplay of Jay's accomplishments. Where is that coming from? Because I'm noticing that a lot from on the internet. I know Jay's comments last year about nobody can compete with him in a versus rub people the wrong way. I didn't see anything wrong with it. So we're going to talk about today if Jay is not the heir apparent or was not the heir apparent past, the Biggie and Pac era, then who was? I know already who you have lined up, and I'm going to address those guys. But we're going to take step by step. We're going to look at it, and feel free to like, share, subscribe, leave your comments in the box on Sean P Reviews. I'm always there. I'm always there to talk about it. I'm always there for a good debate or a good discussion, although being respectful at the same time. Because I know a lot of people, when it comes to GOAT debates in anything, in sports, in basketball, football, baseball, especially in hip hop and music, it gets very, very heated. So let's start. Let's take a trip back for a minute. Biggie passed in springtime, March 1997. March 9th, 1997. And once that happened, 1997 was owned by Bad Boy. Diddy, No Way Out. Matter of fact, that summer was owned by Bad Boy and Wu-Tang, cause Wu-Tang Forever and No Way Out dropped that same year. So Diddy literally owned the radio stations back in those days. Uh, it, Back in those days, it was between Diddy, Wu Tang, and Timberland. Timberland and Magoo, Aaliyah, that whole crew, his whole beat style ran the airways, ran radio, okay? Including Biggie's Life After Death. So, a full year after 1998 came, there were two guys. There was really one that exploded, and that was DMX. DMX exploded that year, and he put out two albums, two of the greatest albums of all time, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, and Dark as Hell is Hot. Dark as Hell is Hot was the first to drop, both considered classics. I believe he sold close to 1 million in that year between the two of those albums. Both are certified classics. There's DMX. But then there was Jay-Z, who also started to make noise with Volume 1. With songs like, started to make noise with Volume 1 with street anthems like Where I'm From on there. And a catchy, playful song about, getting ladies with who you're with, So he started to make noise off of that. But once 98 started, and summer 98, and he came on with Money Ain't a Thing with JD from So Def fame. When he came on with It's Alright with Memphis Bleak, and he hit with the Rush Hour 2 soundtrack, Can I Get Her, with Emil and Ja Rule, who was just blowing up. Jay-Z hit superstardom. He was getting play on pop radio stations. That was really the introduction to the pop world of Jay-Z. Now, Jay-Z also featured with Foxy Brown in '97 with I'll Be Good as well. I believe that's the name of it. He also featured with Lil' Kim. He did a lot of mainstream features that brought him that fame. But once that hit, that really took Jay-Z to the mainstream. Then Hard Knock Life dropped. And let me tell you that as, I'm going to date myself, as an 18-year-old kid going off to college, that was the biggest anthem I've ever seen. I mean, when I went to college, everybody, and I mean everybody who didn't even listen to hip hop, I mean, kids from overseas, from Bangladesh, overseas, were singing It's a Hard Knock Life. That song made Jay-Z a household name. And that album, Volume 2, catapulted Jay-Z to skyrocket fame. You know what I mean? So I would say in 98 to 99, it was DMX and Jay-Z ran hip hop. Easily all the way to 2000, where I think Jay-Z even went up even further, getting a big following in the South with Big Pimpin' off of Volume 3, which dropped in 99. Also Do It Again, which was another club anthem. That was big down in where I went to school. I actually went to school in the Maryland area in Baltimore, and because it had kind of a go-go theme, like Do It Again was a big record down there. So I would say 98 to 99, Jay-Z skyrocketed to fame. But after that, he never looked back. I mean, after that, from 1998 on, and I want to remind you, Notorious B.I.G. passed March of 1997. So officially, 1998 was the first year musically we did not have Notorious B.I.G. or Tupac. Since then, Jay-Z has had 14 straight #1 albums, okay, on Billboard. 14 straight #1 albums. He has 83 nominations of Grammy nominations, the most of any artist ever, even passing Quincy Jones. And you know who that is. And Quincy Jones has been around since the 50s, okay? And that's the man behind Michael Jackson. So enough of that being said. Okay, 24 Grammy Award wins, most by any other hip hop artist. Kanye West tied him. And of those 14 number one albums, 9 to 10 of those albums got high critical acclaim, meaning they were at least good to classic. You know what I mean? And you could look this up on, I know a lot of people are big into Metacritic. A lot of people are big into album of the year. Go look it up. I mean, the records are all there. You know what I mean? And he's had literally four classics legit. You know, Reasonable Doubt. Volume 2 is questionable. I think it's classic. But definitely Reasonable Doubt, Blueprint, Black Album, and some say American Gangster or 444. You could really give a range of 4 to 6 classics that this man has had. You know, so my question to you is, okay, 1998, let's do the math now. 2002 to 2022 is 20 years, right? So 1998, that's 24 years. In that 24-year span, I challenge you to give me any artist with that consistency of greatness over a 24-year span. I just challenge you to do that. And I'll wait. I'll just wait. I mean, what more? So, I mean, if he's not, like you said, if he's not the best, then who is? You know what I mean? And it's like just the slander I see online to say that, oh, well, you know, at that time, I think people are saying, well, Jay-Z really wasn't hot when Biggie died. Well, it's after he died is really the important part. You know what I mean? Just when Biggie was alive, he was in, a lot of artists were in the shadow of Big. Only other people at that time that were popping was Wu and Nas. And Nas was actually competing numbers-wise with Biggie at that time in the 90s. And I'm going to get to the Nas debate because I know y'all want to get to that. But then who? You know what I mean? And how I read you all of these. You know what I mean? I read you everything that he's done in 24 years. Call it 25 years. Because 1997, he was still a good artist. So in a 25-year span, who's done that in hip-hop? What rapper? You give me the guy. Give me the guy or the group. And you can't name it. So why is that an out-of-line statement? Why are people getting in their feelings about saying that Jay-Z didn't carry the torch? Because if that's not carrying the torch, I'm sorry, I don't know what is. I mean, he took hip-hop to another level. You know what I mean? And he globalized hip-hop. Now, I know what you're going to say. One, you're going to go the Eminem route. Okay, that's fair. Because Eminem sales-wise obliterated all these records, lyricism-wise, another level, all of that. The only thing that I'll say about Eminem is quality of music-wise, he has been up and down and been inconsistent. And for whatever reason, people do not receive his music as well as they did in the 2000s and the 90s. I'll give it the new generation of hip hop fan or what have you. And a lot of people, he's unfairly getting a lot of internet slander, you know, because he's white and because he's Caucasian, which I don't understand. But Eminem would be the next closest thing. But because of his lack of consistency, you can't say literally he is that level of Jay-Z, even though he's just about had as many or more. He's up there in the Grammy Awards department, the accolades as far as Billboard, all of that. I get all of that. You know what I mean? Lyrics wise, he might be up there with Jay-Z too. Maybe better, but he's lacked the consistency. The next guy, of course, is Nas. Now, I'm just going to put this out there. Nas is my greatest of all time. He's my personal favorite. I'm a Nas over Jay guy all day. And I'll say this. The Nas and Jay-Z debate is a 1 and 1A debate. I think the GOAT is optional now. But Nas only made it optional in the last few years. The Hit Boy run with King's Disease, which won Nas a Grammy, King's Disease 2, and Magic is what put Nas over the top. It took that run from Nas, late run from Nas, just to say, all right, you know what? I think now you could say he's legitimately better than Jay, cause his catalog may be a little bit more consistent, or maybe as consistent now. So Nas is the only guy who could do that. And in the 90s, to be fair, and this is my opinion, I think Nas was the greatest artist of the 90s because he put out two of the three best albums of all time. It was written Illmatic. But Nas versus Pac and Biggie was that debate back then. Jay-Z didn't come on till later in the 90s after Biggie and Pac passed. But past that point, 98, Nas put out I Am. You know what I mean? Put out I Am and Nostradamus in I think he both put them out in 98 or 98 and 99. And Jay-Z put out, Jay-Z put out Volume 2 and Volume 3. You could arguably say Jay-Z put out the better two albums, and Jay-Z had the better collection of songs out of them. Now, I do think Volume 2 is better than I Am, slightly better, but at the same time, you can't take away the run Jay had in the late 90s, that late run, 98, 99, to put him in that conversation. So, I mean, if you want to argue that Nas was part of carrying the torch, okay. But at that time, and it was obvious, DMX and Jay-Z were hotter than Nas in the late 90s. They were putting out more songs, they were banging the streets, the clubs, everything back then. Nas might have got some play in the clubs, some play in the streets, but he got some play in the clubs and got criticism for it. Like that song with Genuine, Shorty, What's Your Price? You Owe Me, has been dubbed one of his worst songs, even Uchiwali, which I think was more 2000. But at the same time, he did not have the acclaim, I would say, sonically in the club on the radio that DMX and Jay-Z had. So, I mean, to sum it all up, basically what I'm saying is Jay-Z, in the end of the day, was the official torch carrier past Biggie and Pac. If you want to say right after, in the late 90s, okay, I could give you DMX maybe. I could even give you Nas a little. But in a 24-year span, come on. It's a layup answer to Jay-Z. And where is the slander coming from? Why is that such a hard... See, this is almost like arguing... It's almost like arguing like, oh, that almost is like saying, well, Michael Jordan really didn't take the torch from Magic and Larry Bird in the 80s. That's how blasphemous a comment that is, by saying that Jay-Z didn't carry the torch. I mean, you can argue some points with Nas. You can argue some points with even DMX initially, until DMX flamed out real fast in the mid-2000s. And he passed on time. His untimely passing was unfortunate, but he never got back to that level he was in the late 90s. and Eminem in some aspects. But I'm sorry, man. It's a layup answer to say who carried that GOAT torch from Biggie and Pac in the late 90s. And I don't even understand why it's a non-debatable to me. I mean, who are you going to give me? 24 years. Literally 4 decades. 24 years. You know what I mean? His last album, 444, got high critical acclaim. I think he won a Grammy for that or got nominated for a Grammy for that. I mean, and that was 2017. So it's like, I don't know. Some debates are just no-brainers. And this is just a no-brainer to me. And I got to know, you could tell me in the comments, like, where does Jay get this slander from? I'm thinking it's, and this is my theory, I think there is an anti-New York bias. There is an anti-generational bias against New York and New York MCs because the South has blown up and Atlanta trap and Atlanta hip hop has dominated the mainstream for so long. So a lot of the younger hip hop fans are looking at it like, yeah, Jay was cool and I respect him as a businessman, but he's not putting out the trap bangers that a Future is putting out, or trap bangers that Amigos or the rappers that they identify are the younger generation. But you know what? I'll debate you on that. Name me a Southern MC or a Southern rapper who has done what Jay has done for 24 years. I mean, you could even argue Scarface, and Scarface has some classics, but really Scarface will even admit to you Jay-Z's better than him. I mean, Scarface looks up to Jay-Z. Like, come on. You know what I mean? And Scarface is consistent, but he definitely doesn't have the accolades or the classic albums to match a Blueprint or a Reasonable Doubt. Maybe one or two. I could think The Diary, max. And Scarface didn't have the stamina because he flamed out. I mean, what was it, 2014, 2015? He flamed out. And I know he has health issues. I think he's officially retired. Who's another guy from the South? I know you're going to say Andre 3000, but he hasn't Outkast hasn't put out an album in 17 years, and he doesn't have not one solo album to his credit. Not one. So Jay-Z can smash the whole South on his own. Period. Not one MC can measure up to Jay-Z. I mean, the most I could say is maybe all time, maybe Scarface. Scarface is a better competition for Nas, I think. But Jay-Z, come on, man. Like it's like, don't even waste my time. Maybe West Coast, you could say Snoop, but his catalog is very, very underwhelming. Kendrick Lamar has not done enough to compete with Jay-Z at that level. I mean, he's had high critical acclaim and he's got the awards and all of that, but I mean, Kendrick's only been around for 10 years, and of course, and Ice Cube, he flamed out fast. He flamed out so fast in the 90s. I mean, from America's Most to, I would say the West Side Connection album, 1996. After that, I've never seen a rapper flame out so fast from being so high to then being like, all right, this guy, all right, he's whatever. To being a whatever guy, I've never seen that. He's one of the fastest flame outs I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Now, to be fair to Ice Cube had a very, very strong acting career. Ice Cube, I would say, is an A-list Black Hollywood actor and a B-list Hollywood actor, but he's definitely A-list. And that's another topic for another day, because I think that to be fair to some artists, I think that Hollywood has taken away some of our great hip hop stars. LL Cool J, Ice Cube, DMX, before his untimely passing, and 50 Cent, I think. But because that's a whole other conversation for another day, because acting is 10 times harder than it is hip hop, believe it or not. But that's another conversation for another day. But Ice Cube, he flamed out fast. In the 90s, it's an argument. But after that, come on, like really? So, like, share, subscribe, Sean P. Reviews. Hey, I'm waiting for your answers. Who carried the torch from Biggie and Pac? And who matches up with Jay-Z? I don't see anybody else. Only other person I could say is my personal guy. That's Nas, who's been consistent. But that's a 1-1A debate. But other than that, I mean, come on, man. Let's be real about it, okay? Let's just be honest. That's like saying Jordan didn't carry the torch from Magic and Bird in basketball. Like let's just stop with all of that, okay? So leave your comments, like, share, subscribe, Sean P. Reviews, and I'll be back with other things at another time. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend. We will try and get a Shadow Code Radio on this week too. So stay tuned on Anchor from me and Reese. All right, peace.